Thank you so much for your help with evaluating these team reports. Here is a little video guide to get you started as you're preparing and training to do it well. So first, there are two training modules that we would like you to read first. One deals specifically with report evaluations from the sort of numeric point of view and the logistics management, where to find the things, how you enter your grades and things like that. And the other one specifically deals with how to provide effective qualitative feedback. So you will be providing both numeric feedback and qualitative feedback, so comments. This is what the report evaluation matrix looks like, where you will enter your grades. And so some of these evaluations are numeric, and I will show you in a second how to enter your grades, 1 to 0.7 scale. But then you will also be expected to say a few words to explain your numeric evaluations. And again, feedback is art or science in terms of how to give it effectively so that people don't feel offended, but at the same time learn from your feedback. So as I said, two training modules, and they do contain not only text, but also snapshots of like this evaluation matrix that I just showed you, and then some other things that you need to see. So it's essentially pictures and text to explain what needs to be done. Now, here is what the reports look like when we receive them. That's what professors see. So you have this folder with PDF files for each of the reports. So these are from the last semester, and you have like 750 reports here. And so the guide includes Read Me First. So this is basically a guide step by step for how to download the reports, where to find the matrix, where to enter the grades. You will get a copy of that as well. And then there is also in this folder the report evaluation matrix. So you have basically the file where you enter your grades. It contains evaluation rubrics. So essentially it shows you the tasks and how to evaluate these sections of the report. So what constitutes an excellent answer that deserves a 7 or a 6, an average answer that deserves a 4 or 5, and then a bad answer that perhaps deserves only 1, 2, 3, or something like that. And the actual evaluation matrix. So it's very easy to enter your grades. All you do is, let's say, for example, you are evaluating report number, let's take a look here, like for example, 36. I have a sample collection here of reports for you. We will provide you with the evaluations of these reports by other professors so that you can compare your answers or your evaluations as you go through this training with evaluations of multiple professors, so you can see if you are more lenient, more strict, if your feedback is detailed enough and stuff like that. So, but let's say, for example, report number 36 is one of yours. So you open this report and you see that this is from a company called Master Media. So it would be a good idea to obviously first read about the company, its history, products, and perhaps most importantly, the types of questions they ask for. And as you can see, this particular company asks for help with industry and competition analysis, market analysis, marketing, and then several questions related to market entry modes, pricing, and things like that. And then once you know the task, you basically read the reports. So you open your report number 36, and you read it. And so then you go to the report evaluation matrix, and you just evaluate it. So you put your name, last hires, Master Media. You see that it contains how many pages here? It contains 26 pages. And then executive summary. Let's say the executive summary is good but not excellent, so you give it a 6. You decide that industry analysis is about average, maybe you give it a 4. New market analysis maybe is about average, you give it a 4. Promotion channels, perhaps, marketing section is great, so maybe 5 for this, 6 for this, 7 for that. I don't know what the reports are. They do ask for pricing, so you give them a grade. Let's say you think that it's worth 5. They do ask for the entry mode, so you give them, let's say, also 6. They don't ask for HR, so you skip it because that was not part of the task. They didn't ask about logistics, so you skip it. Maybe they did ask about trade regulations. The task asks about trade regulations, but maybe this team didn't provide answers to this question. In which case you do what? You don't skip because it's part of the assignment. You cannot give it a 0 because the range is 1 to 7. So if it's really bad and they didn't do it, or did it but it's extremely bad, you give them a 1. and so on, section by section, until you get to feedback. And then in the feedback, you provide some comments and suggestions for improvement, hopefully detailed enough, so you provide those comments so that students can learn from them. So that's the logistics of it. And then you simply go to the next team, next report. So in our case, it would be report 40, and then you provide the same information here. And then the same one for report 105, you go to report 105 and provide the information here. Now, very importantly, we want you to be fair, developmental, and thoughtful as you provide this feedback. So we don't want you to be too strict, too lenient. So we have prepared a collection of reports here that have already been evaluated by our professors. You have the instructions here, you have the reports here, and as part of this training and review, we will ask you to evaluate these sample reports. And once we have your answers, once you complete the form, you will be emailed the answers that those reports got from our trusted, experienced professors. This way you can see how your answers and evaluations compare to those of experienced professors, so that if you are too lenient, you then become a little bit stricter. If you're too strict, maybe you need to become a little bit more lenient. Now, let me provide you with an overview of the most common mistakes that I see, and I've seen quite a few of these evaluations over the years, so that you don't make those mistakes. So one, obviously it's extremely bad, and I rarely, but do see it sometimes, that professors would, I'm sure they read the reports, but they would just give like 7 for everything, or 6 for everything, or maybe even sometimes 1 for everything. That tells me that the professor probably did not carefully evaluate the report, and just sort of, if I like the way it looks, then I just give everyone whatever the grade is. And if I don't like the way it looks, I'll just give a low grade. And obviously we're not evaluating here how pretty the report is. We are evaluating separately quality of the executive summary, separately quality of each section, separately the presentation, clarity, creativity, economic viability. So if someone gives me 7 on every scale dimension, that's obviously a problem. And sometimes professors cheat, so they would give me, or very, very rarely, but sometimes they would, do something like this. And then it looks like almost like normal evaluations, some are high, some are low. But again, if pricing was not part of the task, for example, and I see a grade here, I immediately think, well, did you even open the report? Did you even read the report? Same thing with the page numbers. I don't really need the page numbers, but if the report has 26 pages and professors put 20 here, or 0, or nothing, again, sort of sends me a message as to whether or not the professor actually read the report. Another common problem that I see is the feedback. So again, some professors are very diligent and they provide detailed, constructive, developmental, fair, professional feedback. Feedback from which you learn and from which you want to learn. Some professors are too harsh in their evaluations, like very negative. It's not that you don't need to be critical, but I mean, again, the guide on how to provide effective feedback teaches you how to criticize in a way that does not discourage, but rather encourages improvement. Doesn't want the student to give up, but instead grow. And so again, make sure that you follow that guide. And then sometimes the feedback is positive, but it's like, great job, keep it up. I mean, what kind of feedback that is? I mean, you probably want to say a little bit more about, maybe the problems you saw with that report and things like that. So make sure that you don't make that mistake. Another problem, as I said, I see sometimes professors give a 0 for missing part, and 0 is not part of the grade, so it's 1 the lowest, 7 the highest. The system wouldn't allow you to put grades below 1 and above 7, so it automatically marks it red. So, but still sometimes professors forget and don't do it. So that's another problem. In terms of the reports, like the typical problems that I see, well, sometimes they don't look particularly professional, like this one, the example that I showed you. It's nice, it's colorful, it has all the information, but sometimes it's just plain text, impossible to read. Often the reports do not contain citations, support for the report. Sometimes they're too long, so as Mark Twain said, sorry, my letter is so long, I didn't have time to write it shorter. And so sometimes the reports feel like students dump anything and everything into the report. It becomes gigantic long, but impossible to work with. Sometimes they would include analyses that are not relevant to the question, like they would include all those SWOT and PASTEL analyses. If the report doesn't ask for that, perhaps you don't even need it. And vice versa. Sometimes it specifically asks for details on how to do, let's say, marketing strategy. And the report says, advertise on Facebook. What kind of advice is that? Everybody obviously thinks about advertising on social media, so where you, the consulting team, come into play, you need to provide an exact strategy. You need to tell me how to advertise on Facebook, what kind of ads to place, how much will it cost, which one is better, should it be Facebook or Twitter or Instagram or maybe TV. So simply saying advertise on Facebook, that's not particularly useful. You want to tell the client something that the client doesn't know. Formatting matters, sections, navigation matters, so all of those things. And then obviously you just follow the evaluation rubrics here and try to stay within the suggested grading. But again, sometimes it's not quite clear. Should it be 5 or should it be 6 or should it be only 4? So use your best judgment, but as I said, don't be overly generous. So don't give everyone 7 on everything. Aim for most of the grades around 4, maybe 5. Do differentiate from question to question. Just because the report looks pretty doesn't necessarily mean that the idea is economically viable. And the other way around. Sometimes if the idea is great, but the formatting is not, give a good grade for the idea, but not for the formatting. Otherwise, use your best judgment and basically pretend that you're the client and think, do I find this useful? Do I find this actionable? Is it easy to read the report? Would I be comfortable as a professor to share a report like that with the client? So use your best judgment. Okay, so read the guides. I hope you will find them instrumental and useful. And if you have any questions, let us know.